been able to listen to this morning, and for part of the time I was here yesterday. And I have to tender my apologies for having been out for the rest of the day yesterday. I just had a lot of meetings. This is the problem when meetings are held where you are, so you get called upon. But I think first of all, I will just thank again the Tana Forum Secretariat, IPSS, and the GIZ, the AU, for the opportunity again of having this collaboration, and we are really very proud as South Africa to have been part of this. And I want to thank the government of Senegal for honoring us with their presence here yesterday. We had the director of youth who was with us, Mr. Jallo. We've had people who joined us online, and the message from the ECOWAS Commission as well. But also a special thanks to His Excellency Lansina Zerbo for the time and for the wisdom he shared with us. We had the opportunity of listening to him, and he was speaking to the media yesterday, but also I was sitting with him all the last hour and a half, basically, and I think it's a privilege to have somebody like him being present at a forum like this one. They have a lot to share and a lot, to contribute to the issues. And also thanks to all the friends and to people who have been on the panels who contributed their time. It was just fascinating, and to take the full measure of the wealth of experiences and ideas, I think that are together in a forum like this one. Everybody has a unique trajectory, unique experiences, great wisdom and knowledge to share, which I think is a treasure, and and I'm convinced that this is something that we must find a way of nurturing and continuing. These conversations must continue. We've been talking about plans, at the national level. Then there will be the Tana Forum, but I think there are all the spaces in which this conversation has to be continued, and there has to be really close connections with the different sectors in our society, the research community in particular, the universities, the educational institutions, the think tanks, the social movements. There's a lot happening, and civil society more generally, and of course the governments. A lot of issues have been raised. I've just been listening to the panel this morning. Many issues having to do with, how to go about having good plans. And the plans are a process, and I'm in complete agreement with that idea. I think the process that people go into, the conversations and the dynamics, are actually probably even more important than what you come up with as a document. Because you are creating, a community. You are building a community. You actually sharing a lot in the process, strengthening each other, strengthening, the whole communities in which we are all embedded in the conversations like these ones. And I think that's probably even more important than what you show in the end as the document. I also have heard, how, some people have been reminding us that we've got things that we can be proud of on this continent, including in legal documents. The African Youth Charter, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We've got great protocols, documents, institutions that are, our own making, and that actually are ahead in some respects of some of the international instruments that we've been working with. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights, it was far ahead, in a number of respects. One, in the importance it gives to both the economic and social rights, and to the civil and political rights, to the notion of duties, to the notion of group rights, in a number of respects, right? And then there are other documents also which we should be, we should never forget that we do have here. I've heard the importance of youth ministries being given much greater weight in governments. I thought that was a very fundamental point that was made. If anything, really, we should probably be in the order of protocols, giving a lot more weight to youth ministries who concern so many people, a lot more people, the majorities actually. I was saying yesterday that we have demographic majorities that ought to have much greater political weight. And one way of doing it is not just to have a ministry that is under-resourced, that doesn't, certainly I don't know of any country where the Ministry of Youth is a state ministry, as has been argued earlier on today. These are things that should be, issues that we put on the agenda and advocate for them to be better resourced, for them to be given much more importance. And it's one way of acknowledging the value and the critical strategic importance of youth in our communities and in our societies. The importance of the financial issues also I've noted, that's really where often you have a challenge. You may have a beautiful document, a good plan, great ideas, but you really need to have the resources. And the resources are available. I mean, the governments make allocations of the resources and they decide to put so much into defense or so much into other things, and then maybe just so little into issues that are so important. So that those resource issues also should be issues that should be, I think, addressed in important ways. And beyond the governments, I think it's a question of sensitizing every important actor in our societies, including the private sector, including communities, for them to know that, look, investing in youth is probably the most important investment that anybody can make anywhere, right? And so there's a need to go even beyond what the governments are contributing to make sure that there are much more important investments into issues related to the youth, because these are investments into our futures and into futures of our societies. And of course, talking about investments, a very critical issue, it may seem not to be related to issues of peace and security, but actually they are, is to make sure that we get the education, we are prepared, for a world that is changing. We are prepared to confront challenges that will become increasingly, complex as you go along. It means investing in education at every level. It means investing in the acquisition of skills, in artificial intelligence, in everything. We have this unique situation in our continent in which we have basically, if you have had now, people are talking about the 5th industrial revolution. The first one we cannot go back to, right? Is steam engines and so on. That's gone. But from the second industrial revolution, having to do with electricity to machine learning and so on, where we are now, we have all of them together happening at the same time, and we have to be able to handle all of them. 600 million Africans don't have access to energy, to electricity on this continent. So, and these are issues that we are said to have been resolved by the second industrial revolution. And then you have, of course, the artificial intelligence, So we have all the issues to grapple with, and we should be able to grapple with all those issues. And I think that's what we need to do. If anything, I think which maybe should have been given a lot more space in the conversations here, I would say 2 things. One is, you see, being young doesn't mean that we shouldn't feel responsible for the big issues that this world is confronted with. I'm not even talking about the continent. I'm talking about this world. And what we are seeing happening in the world today, when you have young people from Sweden and elsewhere being the front runners when it comes to the fight about climate change and global warming, it's young people who are leading that struggle and pushing everybody, including the United Nations. When in South Africa, Steve Biko and them were saying, we're getting up to fight, they were not saying we are young people or we are looking at these issues as young people. Biko said, black man, you are on your own. The problems of this world are your problems. And I think being a young person, it means taking full responsibility of what this world is happening, is about, and where the world is going to. It's not only about, having a job, it's important to have a job, to have skills, to have a home, to have a decent life. But the people who are mobilized today on most of the big issues, are also young people. Young people fought for the independence of this continent, right? Students' movements. We are never about only scholarships and stipends and, fees and so on. Those things are important, but very quickly, including the most recent experiences from South Africa, when they got up to fight for fees to fall, they didn't stop there, you know. It was about the continuation of the decolonization process, of the transformation process that was begun in the struggle against apartheid. So being young doesn't mean that we should minimize the importance we give to the big issues of the day. On the contrary, I think it means putting the biggest issues of the day up front on the agenda and feeling responsible for the search for answers to the big questions that humanity is asking itself today. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think it would have been probably important to spend more time connecting the dots. In other words, seeing what are the big processes that are unfolding both globally and within the region that are impacting on the peace and security issues. Peace and security becomes fragile at the very best if one do not have a much better environment, a much better economic situation, a much better development process unfolding on this continent. So I think it's important to connect the discussions about peace and peace plans, to the context in which we are. And that context is evolving. So therefore we should look at the context as it is evolving and as it is transforming. And one of the most critical things that we were saying yesterday is the fact that this continent is one where you find the most strategic of resources today, the most sought after resources having to do with green energy and so on, are found on this continent. Arable land for agriculture, the largest concentration of it is on this continent. People, human resources, the most important, the largest number of people on the planet Earth are on this continent or will be on this continent within a few decades. And so I think we should contextualize the problems of peace and security, in a way that takes into account what is over-determining the fighting that you see occurring here and there, right? People don't just get up to fight. They fight because of a lot of issues having to do with their livelihoods, in some instances having to do with climate change, having to do with injustices, some of which are local, others are global. There are forms of marginalization that exist in our societies. There are still people who are said to be of slave ascendants, or because of the work that they are doing, they are being discriminated, against in big ways. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, including here in West Africa, right? And some of those issues are so much into the way people live now that they don't even, they are not even at the center of our attention, right? And yet it's a problem. Some of the explanations of the fighting going on in Mali is that part of the problem is that people who have been considered as slaves are now picking up arms and leading rebel movements, because in the Salafist ideology, the notion of being slave, if you are a Muslim, doesn't make sense today. Okay, so the point I'm making here is, we should have a broader view and a contextualized view of issues of peace and security if we want lasting solutions and sustainable solutions to that problem. But it's all within our reach, and I'll end up by quoting Nelson Mandela, who said, "It is in our hands." Right? It is in our hands. It is in the hands of the youth, and I think it is something that people here have understood, because from what I've heard in the conversations, you're already on the right path. And I would just say thank you for your contributions. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to the colleagues who have been, operating at various levels, and the media who have been here. But my colleagues at Cross Africa, Abda and Fakumba, who are involved, working with Letty and Rubiat and all the team over the last couple of weeks. It's been a pleasure and a great honor to have had the opportunity to be part of this gathering. We certainly at Cross Africa will continue following. We've said that we are going to strengthen the relationship with IPSS and with the Tana Forum, and I'm very also happy to have gotten to meet my brother, the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, and this is somebody to value. It's a privilege having somebody like him who's got the experience he has to be on the board of the Tana Forum and to be present in gatherings like this one. So thanks again, and all the best.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll try to keep it brief because our rapporteurs did quite a good job of summarizing the insights over the last day and a bit. But as we draw a close to what has really been great sessions, insightful, strategic, I really want to thank each and every one of you for your active participation and your valuable insights. Your contributions have highlighted the critical role that young people can play in shaping the future of our continent and the future of peace and security. We've discussed at length the importance of moving from frameworks to action. It is imperative that the Youth, Peace and Security National Action Plans do not remain just documents on a shelf, and that they must translate into tangible actions that can make a real difference in our communities. This means developing clear, actionable roadmaps with specific goals, timelines, and measurable milestones. Each stakeholder, from government agencies to youth groups, must understand their roles and responsibilities in this process. The YPS agenda cannot operate in isolation. We need coherent policies that integrate national action plans into existing national frameworks to ensure policy coherence and the mainstreaming of this agenda. Effective interministerial coordination also came up quite a bit in the cases that we've seen with Nigeria, DRC, and Burundi. In these countries, ministries responsible for youth affairs have taken the lead, ensuring that NAPs address various aspects of youth empowerment, peace building, and security. Inclusivity must be at the heart of this work. Marginalized youth, including young women and women within rural communities, need to be included. Their unique perspectives and experiences are invaluable for creating a comprehensive and effective NAP. We must normalize this conversation around youth, peace, and security, ensuring that it's part of all our dialogues, from sexual reproductive health to economic development. Sustainability is a crucial aspect of our work. We need long-term funding mechanisms for youth-focused programs through innovative funding mechanisms and robust monitoring and evaluation frameworks to track our progress. In this dynamic landscape of youth, peace, and security, agility and iteration is very, very important. As we navigate the complexities of conflict and peace building, we must be ready to adapt to emerging contexts and evolving landscapes by embracing flexibility and a commitment to ongoing improvement. These discussions have underscored that peace building is indeed a process, a continuous journey that requires dedication, innovation, and collaboration. By aligning state goals and youth goals, we are fostering inclusive participation, ensuring sustainability, and leveraging technology that we can create a more peaceful and secure Africa. Please count on the African Youth Commission to stand by ready to support this work going forward. Thank you for your unwavering dedication, for being change makers in our world. Together, we can and we must build a future where peace, security, and prosperity are the cornerstones of our continent. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. Hi. Okay, I'll make it short. So thank you. I think when I started my opening remarks, I said I will speak from institutional to personal. This time I'll go the other way around. So first is to say thank you again on a personal note, but also on behalf of the Commission, to the Tana Forum, the Tana Secretariat, IPSS, Trust Africa, GIZ. Thank you for convening this. To Cynthia, who mentioned it in the last Tana Forum that youth should be more involved and that you have made this happen. Thank you for actually listening to the youth and bringing this together. Also to thank, and again personal note but also institutional, to thank all of us really as the youth, as practitioners in our spaces who are already working on peace building, on peacemaking, on NAPS development, and seeing, you know, only in gatherings like this do we get to know what everybody is doing, but clearly a lot is being done. So it's just to thank all of us for our personal agency and that, you know, youth agency in getting work done. unseen and unresourced sometimes, but not unappreciated. So let me just note that. For me, on my part, I think the second thing I wanted to raise is that I'm quite excited about where we go from here. I'm excited about the steering committee that's actually being set up to follow up on the recommendations arising from the Tana Forum. We look forward to hearing or getting feedback on where that goes. And please also, I think, speaking on all our behalf, we look forward to also giving them ideas, inputs, thoughts on how we can make that happen. The speaker before me mentioned that the outcomes of this meeting should go to other platforms, and that's a recommendation that I highly second. There are other high-level engagements beyond the Tana Forum that I know, let's say, us at the PAPS department, we would be happy to take the recommendations of this meeting to other platforms that we have access to. So this is just to say that we as the Y4P team, and speaking on behalf of the IAPS, are ready to assist, take up these recommendations into other platforms, including to the open session on youth, peace and security of the PSC in November of this year. So just letting you know, we are available to take this up in other platforms, and please feel free to utilize us. Feel free to utilize your IAPS as well. To aid our work specifically on the development of national action plans, I will flag that we will actually be going into a session tomorrow and the day after that's going to be focusing on the guideline that we have developed, a continental guideline on how member states can go about the process of developing national action plans. I mentioned that to all of you because our hope is to have it adopted within the next couple of months by the Peace and Security Council and have it as a standing document that assists your work but also assists the member state in terms of pushing this momentum that we currently have on national action plans. So I hope this is a promise that we will be able to deliver back to all of you and really to the youth very shortly and very quickly. And then I will second or third or fourth the consistent call that everybody says, which is the YPS agenda at the national level goes beyond the youth ministries. I think there's that, it's not a saying really, but it's the theory of change means you need to get buy-in from everybody in order to actually see some transformation. So let us remember that the YPS agenda is not just the business of our youth ministry, not just the business of us, the youth, but it's the business of everybody else, and let us advocate for it in all our spaces, big, small, even in those small conversations that you think might not have meaning, but I think they do all have meaning. From an institutional perspective, please be assured of the AU's support in pushing your work forward, in pushing our common agenda forward. For us, at least on our part, again, I'm speaking from an institutional perspective, we're here, we're ready to support with the convening power that the AU brings. We're here and ready to support with coordinating and mobilizing partners and guiding them where they should lend their support. And the final thing that I wanted to flag, and I think I hear this a lot, is always remember that the African Union belongs to you. So feel free to actually give us ideas, thoughts on how we can make the institution work better for you and in pushing this agenda forward. I thank you all.
Good afternoon. I think it's not morning anymore. Good afternoon to everyone. I was, when they've asked me to come and do the closing remark, I was telling Letty, what do you want me to talk about? And then we had a brief exchange, and then she said, no, I think it was him. He said, but you can just say what you've just told us, and that will be enough for the closing remark. And this morning I asked him, what did I say? Because I couldn't remember what I said last time. So, but that tells you that I might be young in spirit, but not in reality. That's probably what I couldn't remember. But anyway, having said this, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank the youth from the 20 or 25 countries that have joined the Tana Forum, the Trust Africa, the Africa Union, and hosted by the government of Senegal. I think it's all about your generosity. Because when you come to exchange with your colleagues and youth partners, it's all about generosity. Because if you don't have that feeling to share, you wouldn't be here. You will stay home and then do your own thing. And youth is all about that. And I think I've heard yesterday in the opening remarks Many of you saying many things like the future is not something we enter, it's something we create. And it's true. You have to create things. You can't just sit and then say we're waiting for the government to tell us, or we're waiting to take over. Being in Senegal, as I mentioned yesterday to the media, it's quite a symbol, because the Senegalese have proven that through democracy and freedom of speech, freedom of action, that they can make changes, and the changes they want, the changes the population want, the changes the majority that you are, because youth are representing the majority. So if you are the majority, you can change things by coming and then expressing yourself. And that's what was done in Senegal. And then I think we must take this opportunity to congratulate the whole of Senegal, the country, the government, for that, what they've achieved and what they've shown to all of us in Africa as an example of changing things without going through the difficulties that I'm saying this without entering the politics of Senegal, but I'm just talking about the reality of what we've seen. So let me share this, because otherwise I could be quoted as saying that I like such and such, but that's not what about it. I'm just pointing the fact. And then I think we should all congratulate this country for what they've shown. So one thing that I want to mention as well is, we talk about youth. Older men like us are the one who create war, but you guys are the one who fight, and eventually find yourself, dying. That's what we're seeing right now in Burkina Faso, in the Sahel region. And but often people tell me, but you were the last prime minister before the coup, and then how do you feel? The good thing is that I still go to Burkina Faso. I'm not in exile. I just came from Burkina Faso, and I think I can still talk, exchange, because that's all about tolerance as well. It's all about tolerance. It's also all about the fact that I didn't get involved in the basic politics. I've stayed out of it. And then serving the international community for some time, and then came to share my experience, and then to try and build reconciliation, because that was one of the motto that let me choose that specific moment to come to government. And then unfortunately, as many people say, I came too late because the situation was bad already. But let's hope that with the youth that you are, and those of Burkina Faso, that will be able to reshape things in a way where we come together to live together and then make the difference that this continent needs, not only the Sahel region, but all of us. And then it's in that respect that I was saying that Senegal is showing an example that we should all follow. And that's something that we should be generous enough to tell them, to tell the Senegalese, because if you don't talk about it, people do things. They can feel great about it, but when they hear it from you guys, it makes them feel different, and then continue in that dynamic. I think it's important to say this as well. So now, when you say, quelle est la prochaine étape? Mettre en phase les États africains et la jeunesse. Est-ce que vous êtes en phase après ces 2 jours de session? C'est la question que j'ai envie de poser aux uns et aux autres. You don't have to put it, because I'll come back to English immediately. So it was just the French I'm talking, I think you can get it without going to the translator. So, est-ce que vous êtes en phase après 1 jour et demi de discussion? Et pour moi, I don't think it's about aligning ourselves with the government. It's aligning the government with what the youth want. That's basically how I see it. It's not about the government deciding, but it's you telling them what you want and how you want to be shaped and how you want the country or the issues to be shaped. And that's basically what the Senegalese have said. But having said this, the responsibility that comes with youth in taking charge goes also with how you shape yourself in responding to those who have brought you to power. And that's what will make the difference. It's like God giving you something in your hands, and then you hold it only with one hand. They often say, the elder people will tell you, when God gives you something, you have to take your 2 hands and then keep it, because it's so precious. So the power that the population puts in your hand is as precious as that. and you have to make sure you hold it tight, you hold it well, and you're responsible, as Dr. Ibrahim just said now, because youth come with responsibility. And responsibility is one that will dictate the way you shape and deal with perception, because we live in the world of perception. We live in the world of perception, and that's why things are so different from one country to another. And even in the same country, even in that same room, you've been exchanging for a day and a half, and I'm sure you brought different thoughts. And those thoughts are what you need. And those thoughts are part of the generosity that I was mentioning. And it's that generosity that will make the difference among you guys. But I was also glad to hear that you've set up a steering committee to follow up what you've discussed. And that's important. I've been in so many meetings and so many conferences, and then after conference, it's over. But what you guys have to do is to exchange contacts. And beyond the steering committee is to be able to reflect on what you've discussed and then propose action plan that are beyond what was set up by an institutional framework that is the African Union and any other, and then come with innovation, technology, and new thoughts. Because science is all proven, and that's the reality. What makes a difference is innovation, and it's technology. So the innovation comes from you, because you're young, you have new ideas that are certainly newer than what we have, unless we stay young by being with you, because that's why I like being where the young people are, because it makes me feel young, and it keeps me young. And I want to use an example. I set up the CTBTO youth group many years ago. That was the first youth group in the non-proliferation and disarmament framework. When I set it up, people ask me, what is young for you, Dr. Zerbo? I say, young, it's anything below 35. And that's what I said. And then people start working. And then when they reach 35, they tell me, but Dr. Zerbo, I want to continue because I still feel young. And some of them are 40, 45, and continuing being part of the CTBTO youth group. So youth, it's in your mind. If you feel young, you're young. When I hear our colleagues from South Africa, it reminds me of my time in South Africa. I was the first black African manager in Anglo-American South Africa post-apartheid. When I came from the United States to work in Anglo-American 45 Main Street. So I remember when I came there, and they were still painting white only, because they were putting the painting on it, and then I was shocked to see this. This is something that I've seen for myself. As a young scientist at the time, I was wondering what I was doing there. But it's because I've traveled the world. I was in Zambia, I was in South Africa, all Southern Africa, West Africa. And that's probably what brings, or we can talk about the experience that Ibrahim Fall is talking about. What you have is not what you learn at school. What you have, it's the opportunity that God gives you to meet people who are brighter than you, who are better than you, who sometimes not as good as you, but it's that mix and that merge that will shape the social or emotional intelligence that you need to help your government to make a difference. And if you do that, you do it with responsibility. And responsibility is important. Because sometimes, and I was talking to Ibrahim about it, I say, you know, our problem in Africa is because we seem to be, I wouldn't say young, but we seem to be keeping the childhood on our mind forever. Because our culture makes it that you're always a younger brother of somebody. And I'm probably at the age where I should be grandpa, but people would still call me petit sinner, the small sinner, because those are older than I am. And when they do this, if you don't step back a little bit to say, that's in a specific register, they will make you feel as if you are still the child that they've known for 50 years. And that's what we should get a little bit over, and then help ourselves with responsibility, decision, education, you know, generosity, exchange, good feelings, positive energy, to try and do what this continent needs, connection. And yesterday I had coordination. Whatever you do, if you don't coordinate with other youth institution or institutional framework, you will not be able to make a difference. And somebody said yesterday, alone you can go, but together we can go far. So if you want to go far, let's connect. And Ibrahim has mentioned about connecting the dots. The dots are not only connected because we're here, but we connect the dots about the issue that we're dealing with. And the issues are many, many, from south to north, from west to east. There's so many issues in the continent that you should get involved. And getting involved is also reaching out to those who are not aware of about what you're doing here. And this discussion today shouldn't stay among only the 20 or 25 countries that are represented. You should share the resolution with all others in the continent and then link it up with other youth fora that exists, whether it's the United States framework, the United Nations framework, and any other framework where you can connect and listen to them and then see how what you do can help shape what they're doing for the planet. I've seen many youth institutions. I was at the COP28. I'm seeing some. You go to Rwanda. I was talking to somebody this morning because he said he was part of a youth leadership program in Dakar. So I asked him if he knew about this discussion. He said no. I said, can you send me what you guys were discussing so that I see how I can link you up? And I was talking to you the other day. I said, do you know your fellow Nigerian? He's a young, bright guy who is working in non-proliferation. He's 33, and he's campaigning to become the special envoy for security, peace, and non-proliferation for Nigeria. He decided to create this position within his country to shape non-proliferation disarmament within Africa. So he asked me to help him in his campaign. He sent me a brochure that I was sharing with you. And then I was telling him, why don't you guys connect? Can you imagine? He's doing this at the level of the ministry or the presidency. And then even in Nigeria, some of the young people are not aware. So let's connect the dot. Let's share what we have. Let's talk about what we do. And let's connect peace and security with the issues of our time. Energy, energy, energy. Because climate change and energy are what will shape the future of this continent. If the effect of climate change brings an energy crisis, we will never have peace, we'll never have security. So involve yourself in the issue of energy. If I ask many of you, do you know that in 5 or 10 years, you will not need to charge your phone? You probably don't know this. In Portugal, at the Creative Science Park, they're innovating in making energy cell that will fire up your phone or any of your smaller electronic item forever. You buy them for 5 years, you use them, and then that's it. And that's where the future of energy is going. And as you know, with nuclear energy, we're moving from the traditional nuclear power plant to containerizing nuclear power plant into a 40-foot container. But if you guys don't follow, and then it's done in the West, coming in the global South, will still be at the end. So we have to be part of all those endeavors that are happening in this world so that we can shape the world the way we want, the way we feel safer in it, we feel secure in it. Because the world is not done for us. And sometimes I joke about when my kids want to take a selfie or picture, and then I tell them, you know, we didn't make the camera, so I'm too dark, you won't see me. So if you want me to appear well in the camera, you have to manufacture your camera to fit the dark skin. So I'm saying this to joke, but you know, it's just an indication that if you want something to suit you, you try to do yourself because you think about your own problem and then you shape the solution to your like. And let's make sure in Africa we shape our solution to what fits what we need for this continent and what makes us great, because we have to make Africa great again. Thank you so much.
So that's it. He has told us to hold this agenda with both our hands, to go and connect the dots and shape the solutions to our needs. Enjoy the rest of the day.